Welcome back to Pocket Saga. Today we are going to see, what if Ash had choice to chose Pokémon. This is part 1 and do check out the author of this story named, New Dawn by, Zillera. And make sure to leave a like, share and subscribe for more. Let's get in the video. Mom, I'm heading off to Professor Oak's, shouted a young boy with messy brown hair hidden under his red and white hat. A green symbol was on the front. He was at the gate to his house. He shifted impatiently, chocolate brown eyes watching Pidgey flutter in the sky. Oh, wait a minute please dear. His mother called back and quickly finished cleaning a dish. She hurried out a minute later. The boy groaned, he knew what was coming. Now Ashy, do you have spare underwear? Clean clothes? Yes mum, can I go now? He was nearly jumping up and down on the spot making his mother laugh. All right. She gave him a hug. Promise me you'll be careful Ash. She called as she watched her son race down the road towards Oak's laboratory. I will mum, Ash yelled over his shoulder, an error as he tripped over a rock. He got up, shaking his head. Delia rushed up to him. Are you okay honey? Ash nodded, getting up and dusting himself off. Yeah, I'm fine. He checked his watch, suddenly panicking, I gotta go or I'll be late. Bye mum. He gave his mother a kiss on the cheek and ran off once again. Stay safe, she thought, worried as she watched her son run off. Please don't get hurt. The woman sighed, going back inside the house to clean. The boy, Ash, was soon to become a Pokémon trainer. It was his 10th birthday today, meaning he could obtain his license and first Pokémon. He wore a blue vest, a t-shirt, green fingerless gloves and jeans. His red cap was firmly on his head and his bag was strapped to his shoulders. I hope I'm not late, he thought, running up the stairs to the lab. Professor, he called after knocking on the door for a few minutes. Ash twisted the doorknob, opening the door. Professor Oak. It's me Ash. I've come to get my first Pokémon. He jumped as an old man poked his head out of a door. Ah Ash, you're finally here. Come on in here. Stacy and Megan are already here. Professor Oak's head disappeared around the corner and Ash went in. Two girls were already there, Stacy Greenstone and Megan Knight. Ash frowned. Where's Gary? He asked, standing beside Stacy. He's not here yet. He probably thinks he'll get first pick either way because the professor is his grandpa. Stacy answered. She had chocolate brown hair and gray eyes. Well, I assure you. He may be my grandson, but since you three are here and he hasn't shown up yet, you may pick your first partners. Oak told them, if he is late, I could always give him a spare Pokémon that is running around. The three nodded. Stacy, since you were here first you can pick. Stacy stepped forward and picked up the Pokeball with the water drop on it. Ah Squirtle wonderful chose. Megan, you're next. Megan chose the one with the leaf on it. Oak smiled. Bulbasaur suits you perfectly Megan, excellent choice. That means you get Charmander Ash. I think he'll be perfect for you. Both of you are quite stubborn. Ash blinked looking confused as the professor and girls gave a small laugh. He shook his head, going to the table and picked up the ball with the red flame outlined with black. Oak hand. Add them each a Pokédex and 5 spare Pokeballs. Treat them well you three. Oak advised earnestly, they're all very good Pokémon and if you don't treat them well enough, they won't like you and probably will stop obeying you. We'll take great care of our Pokémon, don't you worry. Ash declared excitedly, making Professor Oak, Stacy and Megan laugh again. I don't doubt any of you. Good luck for you all and please try stay out of trouble. He looked pointedly at Ash who smiled nervously, scratching his head. The 10-year-old tended to find trouble no matter what. We'll visit sometime Professor once we've finished our journeys. Megan promised him, her blue eyes sparkling. Thank you Megan. Now go or I'll start crying. Take care of yourself. With that, the three 10-year-olds left with their newly required Pokémon. On their way down the stairs though, the three starters popped out of their Pokeballs. Squirt. Squirtle jumped up into Stacy's arms. Stacy scratched the blue turtle on her head. Bulbasaur rubbed up against Megan's leg. Megan bent down, rubbing behind the little Pokemon's ear. Charmander jumped up onto Ash's shoulder, careful of his flame. Ash pat his head as the trio laughed at their Pokémon, but they were interrupted by a car full of girls with a brown-haired boy upon reaching the bottom of the stairs. Oh hello Gary, Stacy said coldly. E2 hated each other quite a lot ever since Gary had decided to push her into a pond when they were both 6. Hey Stacy, Gary grinned, flicking his hair, but suddenly his smirk switched to a frown. Don't tell me you get all the Pokémon. Quote, yes, we did, Gary. Ash snapped, Charmander growling as his tail flared up. Too bad you're a little too late. You could have gotten Squirtle. Megan told him, grinning. Everyone in town knew Gary wanted to have Squirtle as his starter. Gary growled, hopping out of the car and stomping up to the laboratory. His cheerleaders glared at them as the three headed towards the edge of town to separate. I suppose we'll see each other at the Indigo Plateau? Ash asked, slightly sad that they had to part as he looked at the two girls. Megan scratched Bulbasaur's head, looking nervous and a little guilty. Well, actually Bulbasaur and I are going to go into the breeding business. I really want to become a breeder. Sorry Ash, she said quickly when she saw Ash look even sadder. Oh okay, hope you like it, Stacy. Stacy smiled softly, also seeming a little guilty. Sorry Ash, but me and Squirtle are going to wander around for a while. She apologized, being a TRA. Inner doesn't really appeal to me for some reason. Ash's face fell even more. He liked Stacy as much as Megan, but he really hoped she at least would travel with him. Alright, I guess I'll see you then. Maybe you can cheer me on when I reach the Indigo Plateau. A smile appeared on his face, making the girls giggle. Typical Ash. Of course we'll come cheer you on. Megan exclaimed, I know, I wouldn't miss it for the world. Same here Ash. Stacy put her hand forward. How about we make a promise? No matter what happens, we'll always be there for each other. We promise. The kids somehow connected their pinkies together. Suddenly cheering came from behind them. The three turned around, Squirtle and Charmander hanging off of their respected trainer's head or shoulder. Bulbasaur tilted his head, red eyes curious. The whole town seemed to be there, hoping to catch up to them to see them off. Good luck kids, they shouted, waving banners and things. Their parents were at the front of the group. Stacy smiled as Megan laughed while Ash punched the air, grinning. The trio waved goodbye to their home, going their separate ways. Ash sighed softly, Charmander scuttling ahead of him. His hands were linked behind his head as he walked, deep in thought. Again, his foot caught on a rock, causing him to trip. Yelping, he crashed into a tree, knocking a Weedle down. Ash jumped back ready to run. Weedle meant Kakuna and Kakuna meant Beedrill, but blinking, he heard no angry buzzing. Confused, he peered out from between his arms he had instinctively thrown up. The Weedle looked like she was going to cry. Ash instantly felt guilty. It wasn't her fault her evolved forms were so protective of their hives. Ash knelt down as Charmander ran up to them, looking at Weedle. Hey, I'm sorry Weedle. Please don't cry, he cooed, putting a hand near the bug Pokémon. Weedle sniffed, looking up at Ash with teary eyes. You're not hurt, are you? The boy asked, dropping his hand down. Weedle shook her head, scuttling over to his leg and rubbing up against his shin. Ash looked at her with curious brown eyes. You like me, Weedle? The Weedle nodded, climbing up his leg and cuddling up to his chest as he plucked her off his leg and held her to his body. He brought out one of his balls and enlarged it. Okay, ready. Weedle pressed her horn against the button, getting sucked in. It pinged once before going silent. Charmander seemed happy at the idea of having a friend. Ash smiled. Well, that wasn't the way I exactly pictured catching my first Pokémon, but still, I caught a Weedle. The two laughed at their cheering. Ash placed the ball on his belt and kept walking towards Viridian City. I wonder what it'll be like in Viridian. Ash wondered out loud to Charmander as they wandered closer to the city. Stacy couldn't believe her day. She had finally started her journey but wasn't sure what to do. She could always be a trainer like Ash or become a breeder like Megan. Stacy frowned. She couldn't decide what she wanted to do. She looked down at her starter, who was amusing herself by blowing bubbles. Stacy giggled at the cute Pokémon. I wonder how Ash and Megan are going. She wondered, popping a bubble absent-mindedly as it floated in front of her face. Squirt. The cry brought her out of her musings, looking around to see what Squirtle was going on about. A Pidgey was pecking the ground in front of her. The Pidgey looked up, cooing softly. Yes, a Pidgey, she cried happily. Squirtle tackle attack. The turtle moved forward to tackle the bird but missed. Squirtle skidded to a stop looking up. Pidgey rushed down pecking Squirtle on the head. Squirtle! She yelled in pain, swatting the bird away. She hit the bird hard with a tackle attack, knocking it back. It seemed a little dizzy. Another tackle. Squirtle darted forward quickly, hitting the bird again. Stacy threw a ball at the brown Pokémon hoping to catch it. The ball, pinged, 3 times then fell silent and still. Yes. Way to go Squirtle. She picked up Squirtle, hugging her starter after getting her newly caught Pidgey. Squirtle squeaked happily hugging her back. You did great. Let's get going to Viridian. She started jogging towards the city, Squirtle hurrying after her. Megan laughed as Bulbasaur chased after a butterfly. Don't run off too far Bulbasaur. She called to her Pokémon, hearing the reply. Bulba. He called back, red eyes traveling after the butterfly he was chasing. The blue butterfly landed on a bright yellow flower but fluttered off as Bulbasaur sniffed the plant. The grass Pokémon sighed happily, settling down in the sun. Megan was nearby, her sketchbook out. She was sketching Bulbasaur sleeping in the flowers. Looking up, she saw an Oddish. Scamper over to Bulbasaur and nudge him awake. Bulbasaur woke up, sleepily looking at Oddish. Oddish awed. The weed Pokémon glanced shyly at Megan who sat still. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur asked back. Oddish nodded. Still looking at Megan. Bulbasaur waddled over to Megan, nudging her bag open and taking out a ball. Megan blinked, taking it off him. Oddish asked to come with us. She asked, guessing that's what it asked. Her starter nodded, Oddish slowly coming over. All right. It's okay with me. Megan enlarged the ball. You sure you want to come? She asked Oddish, who looked up at her shyly. Leaves rustled as she nodded. Megan pressed the ball against her, the light sucking her in. It stayed silent after one ping. Megan looked at the ball, then let out Oddish. Oddish shook herself, looking cutely at her. Ah! Megan squealed, you're so cute. Odd. Oddish blushed, hiding behind Bulbasaur. She's shy. Megan exclaimed, well, Pokémon do have different natures. Megan shrugged, then she stood up. Collecting her things, well, I'll dwell on that later. We better get heading to Viridian, otherwise we'll be last. She started walking, Bulbasaur and Oddish following. Gary had stormed OUT of his grandfather's lab after he explained that he had to take a Pikachu that was still quite wild even after capture and had nearly fried him when they first meet. Right now that Pikachu was out of his ball and had scampered up a tree. Get down here, you little rat. Gary shouted, glaring at him. The small mouse ignored him and kept munching on the apples that grew in the tree. Gary felt his blood boil. He couldn't understand why his grandfather had given him a disobedient Pokémon. Why couldn't have gotten an Eevee or something? Gary sat down under the tree, crossing his arms. He closed his eyes, trying to think of a way to get his Pokémon down. Pikachu glanced down at his trainer, smiling as he watched him. He wasn't about to give up to a spoilt human child. Ash entered the Pokémon Center, Charmander trotting after him. I wonder if Stacy or Megan are here yet. He said out loud, glancing around. He didn't see either. Ash sighed. You tired, Charmander? Charmander replied with a large yawn, all right. We'll get a room after we have something to eat. I have to call my mum too. Charmander nodded, crawling up onto a nearby chair that sat next to a table as his trainer tipped out some poke food for him into a bowl. He happily ate, waiting for his trainer to come back after calling his mother. Aw, what a cute Charmander. Charmander looked up at the squeal, lowering down the peak. Of poke chow he had halfway to his mouth. Char. The lizard tilted his head, watching a girl come up to him. The girl petted him, cooing softly. Who do you belong to, you cutie? She asked, picking him up and causing him to drop his bit of chow. Charmander tried getting out of her grasp. Charmander. Char. He cried unhappily, waving his arms and legs. His tail swung back and forth as tears ran down his face. He didn't like other people picking him up, and neither did he like wasting food. What are you doing with that, Charmander? Nurse Joy asked, slightly angry. Does it even belong to you? She knew that the fire Pokémon obviously didn't belong to the girl, otherwise it wouldn't be crying. The girl looked guilty, putting Charmander back on his seat. Charmander quietened down, but some tears still ran down his face. No. He doesn't belong to me. I'm sorry, Nurse Joy. You shouldn't apologize to me but to Charmander. Nurse Joy scolded. The girl looked at the floor, guiltier. How would why? Oh, you like to be picked up by someone you don't know. And besides, you don't know what this little guy could have done if he was scared enough. The girl sighed, turning to Charmander. I'm sorry, little Faye. Lobot, you looked so cute and I just wanted to give you a hug, Charmander sniffled, staring at her with teary eyes. Ash appeared, looking confused. When he saw Charmander he got worried. Who upset my Charmander? He asked angrily. The girl gulped, Nurse Joy staring at her pointedly. It was me. I'm sorry. Ash looked at her, his anger vanishing. I just saw him on his own and he looks so cute. Ash chuckled softly. Well, okay. He turned to his Pokémon. You okay, pal? Charmander nodded, happy his trainer was back. Oh, Nurse Joy, could you check my Pokémon? We just came from Pallet Town and I want to make sure they're alright. Ash asked the red-headed nurse. She smiled. Of course I will. Charmander, can you come with me please? The lizard hopped down from his chair, standing next to Nurse Joy. Ash took out Weedle's ball. Handing it to her. You can get them in an hour. I'll just give them a check-up. Ash nodded, watching her and his starter go. The girl studied him, which made Ash a little nervous. I'm Ash Ketchum. Who are you? He asked, smiling. My name's Amy, Amy Kings. She answered, sitting down at the table. Ash cleared the bowl of food away before sitting down. So what kind of Pokémon do you have? Amy smiled. I've got a Meowth and a Spearow. What about you? You already know Charmander, but I've also have a Weedle. Amy nodded, leaning back in her chair. Cool. Suitedly, Ash's stomach rumbled loudly. Ash blushed, embarrassed. Sorry, I guess I'm hungry. Amy laughed, black hair swaying. So do you want to grab a bite somewhere then? Ash blinked. He looked up at the clock. It read 7:50 p.m. I doubt many places will be open, but I know a great restaurant that stays open till 9 o'clock. Amy quickly explained. It's called Viridian Green. It has an excellent menu. You can order anything from a simple hamburger with fries to a gourmet salad. The two laughed. Sounds like fun, lead the way. Ash and Amy both stood up, Ash following Amy to the restaurant. It had gotten darker, so the street's light were on. So how old are you, Amy? Amy giggled. I'm 10, Ash, otherwise I wouldn't walk around on my own. Ash blushed again, tugging his hat down a little. So when did you leave home? Amy decided to ask a question. Today, I left home this morning after getting Charmander. Amy stopped in front of a restaurant that had a green neon light out front reading, Viridian Green. Wow. Ash was stunned. It looked just like a fancy restaurant. Amy laughed. Come on. In you get before someone mistakes you for a beggar. She joked, going inside. Ash went in after her once he managed to. Candles were sitting on the tables along with different flowers. A young waiter smiled as he saw them. Amy, how are you? He glanced over at Ash. Who's this? Hello Remy, I'm fine. This is Ash. Ash, this is my older brother Remy. Amy watched the two shake hands. Hey, do you work here? Remy nodded, leading them to a table. Yeah, but only part-time. Unlike some people, I quite like being a nest egg. He grinned over at his sister, who stuck out her tongue. So what do you two want? Tonight's special is the beer batter snapper with chips. I'll have some pasta. Amy answered, sitting down. Ash. Ash looked a little confused. Can I have a menu before I choose? He asked, making Remy laugh. Course. I'll be 1 minute. I'll tell the chef to get your usual ready, Amy. Remy hurried off to get a menu and obviously tell the chef Amy's order while Ash sat down to a snickering Amy. So you two are siblings? Yeah, it can be annoying though. Amy's face was a little red. He's so harassing whenever I bring a boy home I like. Our parents are always working, so they don't really notice. What about you, Ash? Have any brothers or sisters? No, it was only me and Mum until I left. He answered softly. Dad left before I was born, or so my mum told me. I can't remember either way. Oh. Amy looked crestfallen until Remy came back with a menu and 2 glasses of water, balancing a bowl of breadsticks on his elbow. He placed the menu in front of Ash and put the glasses and bowl down. Your order will come out as soon as Ash figures out what he wants. He explained to his sister, waiting as Ash looked over the menu. Thanks, big bro. How is Chef Elaine anyway? Oh, she's fine. Her boyfriend proposed to her yesterday. Remy said, Amy interested. Ash listened in but pretended to read the menu. He proposed here and everyone was onto it except for her. apparently put the ring in a piping bag she was going to use. When she found it, nearly deafened everyone in the room. Amy laughed. I thought I heard a scream from there, but I took for a Pokémon cry. Remy laughed this time. Really? You've always been the funny one. Anyway, chosen anything yet, Ash? Ash bit his lip, glancing over the menu. I'll have fish and chips. Remy nodded, writing it down on the pad he carried around. All right, should be ready in a few minutes. Remy headed towards the chef to tell her Ash's order. So, Amy fiddled with the napkin in front of her. Ash watched the other occupants of the other tables. Amy sighed. Ash, can I ask you a question? Ash turned back to her. Sure. What is it? She seems really nervous, he thought, watching her. You know how you're on a journey. He nodded slowly. Yeah, why? Amy blushed, lowering her eyes. Well, I was wondering if I could travel with you. Huh, is that all? Ash was confused. He stared at her. Of course you can. Did you think I would say no? Amy shrugged, smiling. Not really, but still. I only met you today after all. Amy explained truthfully, Ash staring at her. He opened his mouth to say something, but Remy came back with their dinner. He placed a bowl of pasta in front of Amy and a plate of fish, chips and some salad in front of Ash. Enjoy. It's on the house. Amy gaped at her brother. Remy, I've told you enough times. I can pay for my own dinner. But Remy just laughed. He never said I was paying for it. You better say thanks, Elaine. With that he went to assist another waiter with a large group. The two kids fell silent, eating their dinner. The only noise was the clink of knives and forks on the plates. After finishing their dinner, Amy and Ash said their goodbyes to each other, Ash heading towards the center, Amy heading to her home. Amy hugged her arms tighter around her waist. Ash seems really nice, she thought. A sudden red blush creeping across her face. I wonder why I was so nervous about asking him if I could travel with him. Amy froze in place at a thought that crossed her mind. I might like him. Stacy nearly bumped into Ash as he neared the Pokémon Center. Ash, you're here already. She was surprised. She thought Ash would be a few days before reaching the city. Yeah, I've been here a few hours. Ash answered. Entering the center, he went up to the counter. Nurse Joy. The nurse looked up at Ash smiling. Your Charmander and Weedle are doing fine. Both are very healthy, she told him happily, handing a ball to him as Charmander jumped over the counter into his arms. Ash petted him, releasing Weedle. Hey Weedle, how you feeling? Weedle clambered up onto Ash's head, causing Stacy to laugh. I think she's fine. Just happy to see you. Ash smiled, holding on Charmander. Charmander gave a toothy grin to Weedle, who waggled her tail happily. So have you caught any Pokémon yet, Stacy? As the duo headed off to sleep. They had rooms right next to each other. I've only caught a Pidgey so far, but Squirtle has gotten a lot of training. An idea came to Stacy's mind. How about a battle tomorrow? 2-on-2. Megan can ref if she's here by then. Ash only needed a second of thought before answering. All right, fine by me. Ash told her excitedly. Do you know where Megan is anyway? Stacy shook her head. Squirtle and Charmander nearly falling asleep. No, I haven't heard from her since we left Pallet, she said honestly. Truthfully, I thought she'd be here before both of us. Ash sighed as Weedle, Charmander and Squirtle fell asleep. I know, he murmured. I'm worried. Megan has the best sense of direction, so I doubt she's lost. You think something's happened to her? Worry filled Stacy's eyes. Maybe we'll ask Nurse Joy tomorrow if she's seen her. They went inside their respected rooms with their Pokémon. Ash placed Weedle on the bed above him. For some reason Nurse Joy had given him a room with 2 bunk beds, but he didn't mind. Charmander curled up next to Ash when he got under the blanket, careful with his tail. Ash stared at the underneath of the bed above him, thinking of Megan. I hope she's all right, he thought, remembering how excited she was when they left this morning. Megan will be here tomorrow, I know it. He thought defiantly, falling asleep. Bright Lee. GHT filtered through the window to Stacy's room. Groggily, she woke up. At first confused to where she was, she soon remembered that she was on her Pokémon journey. Yawning, she moved Squirtle softly, who was still snoring. Stacy stretched, trying to blink the sleep out of her eyes. She got dressed, waking Squirtle up, and went out to the foyer. Ash woke up a little while later, quickly finding Stacy. She was watching a TV that was showing the news. Hey, Stacy turned and placed a finger on her lips, pointing towards the TV. Pictures of two people a few years older than them and a Meowth were on the screen. Trainers should especially be careful of this trio, the reporter was explaining. They seem to target people who have strong or rare Pokémon. They also steal precious jewel. And other things they can probably pawn off. Now to the next story. Ash glanced at Stacy, who was biting her lip. You think they'll go after us? Ash asked her, worried about the answer. Probably if they see us. I mean, we do have some rare Pokémon with Squirtle and Charmander. The doors opened to reveal Megan holding Bulbasaur. Megan. The blonde smiled at them, Bulbasaur jumping out of her arms and running up to the other starters. Weedle and Pidgey were out as well. Oddish hid behind Megan's leg, peering around them. Stacy saw her and kneeled down. Your Oddish is so cute. Megan moved slightly. Oddish pressing closer. I know, Megan beamed, but she's shy though. I'm going to work on it. Ash smiled. I guess our bottle's still on Stacy. Stacy stood up, laughing. Yeah. She turned to Megan. Me and Ash are going to have a battle, would you be able to ref for us? Megan shrugged. Sure, I think I saw a battlefield behind the center when I came in. Ash and Stacy raced out to it, leaving the Pokémon behind. Guys, your Pokémon. Megan laughed, going after them. You can't have a battle without them. Their Pokémon dashed after them, the starters out in front. Suddenly a net covered them, trapping them. Char, Squirt, Bulba, Weed, Pid, Odd. The three stopped, spinning around. They saw a balloon in the shape of a Meowth. Ash and Stacy recognized the crooks from the news report. Guys, let them go. Ash shouted angrily. The Meowth smirked. No way, twerp. These Pokémon belong to Team Rocket now. Everyone gaped at him. A talking Meowth. Megan gasped, but that's not possible. Not entirely, it seems, Meg, Stacy said through clenched teeth. Why do you want our Pokémon? She shouted at them. Now twerpy. The redhead giggled, twirling a bit of hair around her finger, like we'll tell you our plans for these Pokémon. Ash growled. I guess they'll probably sell them or give them to their boss. Ash muttered, staring at the trio. Spearow. Slash the rope open with Peck. A small brown bird severed the rope between the balloon and the net. The three panicked as the net dropped down. How dare you? We took a lot of effort taking those Pokémon. But they were ignored as the three kids ran forward. No. Megan and Stacy raced ahead, catching the net. They settled the net down, getting it off their Pokémon. The Pokémon instantly went to their trainers. The fire and grass Pokémon were crying. Everyone okay? They all nodded, Charmander clutching Ash's jeans while Weedle cuddled up to his chest. Squirtle was firmly held in Stacy's arms and Pidgey was on her shoulder. Oddish happily snuggled up to Megan's arm while Bulbasaur was being petted. Ash looked at the girl who saved their Pokémon. Amy. The girl smiled then looked serious, looking up at the thieves. Spearow put a hole in their balloon. The three crooks in the balloon looked worried and scared. Oh no. They moaned as a hole was torn in the balloon, sending them flying, or blasting off. The kids laughed at what they said. Thanks, Amy, Ash said sincerely. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have our Pokémon. Amy shrugged, Spearow flying down onto her shoulder. It's nothing. Who are these two? Amy gestured at Stacy and Megan. Oh, these are my friends, Stacy Greenstone and Megan Knight. Ash introduced them. They started the same time I did. Amy nodded at them, smiling. I'm Amy. Nice to meet you. Same here, Stacy said, picking up Squirtle. Thanks for helping. Yeah, thanks, Amy. Megan agreed. I don't know what we would have done. Amy smiled, shrugging her shoulders again. Hey, like I said, it's nothing. They fell silent for a while, an awkward silence over them. Stacy shifted, sighing. Amy finally spoke up. So when are you guys going? Megan answered the question first. I'm staying here a few days. I'm probably staying for another day. Stacy. I'm leaving today. How come? Amy blushed slightly, hiding her face with her black hair. Just wondering. Ash shrugged, turning to his other two friends. I'll see you two at Pewter City. He asked Megan and Stacy, who returned their Pokémon. Yeah, you will. Have fun. Megan answered, smiling at Ash, and good luck with your battle with Brock. Ash smiled and nodded, Charmander hanging off his shoulder. Weedle was happily in her ball. Coming with me still, Amy? He asked her, who nodded. Yes, I am. I told Remy so he knows what happening. Megan and Stacy glanced at each other. A smile between the two went unnoticed by the other two. Bye Stacy, Megan. Ash said, going off with Amy. I'll see you in a few days. Bye Ash. See you later. Stacy watched her friend and Amy go, talking to each other. I definitely think she likes him. Megan instantly said after they were out of ear. Shot. Did you see how she looked at him? Stacy laughed, heading towards the center. Yep. Definitely likes him. Gary growled as he tried to return Pikachu to his ball. Unfortunately for Gary, the mouse had shocked him 3 times and had bitten him 4. You stupid little aw. Gary started twitching but not from anger. The mouse had shocked him again. I hate you know that. Gary grumbled as he got over the shock. Sorry. He stood up, dusting off his shirt and pants. Why my grandpa ever gave me you I'll never know. Gary went off, not bothering to wait for his Pokémon. Pikachu shook his head, chasing after his trainer. He didn't know why he was sticking with this kid. He could have run off and left the kid. The yellow mouse knew the boy would get mad and probably throw away or break his ball, but for some reason he followed. It's probably because he's so fun to annoy. Pikachu was surprised at the thought but found it true. It was fun annoying him, more fun than just running away. All sparks still skittered across his cheeks and fur, his ears twitching back and forth as he leapt up onto Gary's shoulder. Gary jumped, glaring at him as a stray spark flew off the mouse and hit him. Pikachu smirked. Yep, it sure was fun annoying him. Gary stated after a few hours to the electric Pokémon, are completely useless. Gary had tried getting him to use Thunder Shock on a Spearow but Pikachu just ignored him, falling asleep instead. So Gary only had him so far for a Pokémon and boy he wasn't happy. Gary started setting up camp. I just want to catch a Pokémon but oh no you'd rather sleep than fight. Gary nearly hit his hand while pegging down his tent. You like to shock me rather than shock another Pokémon. Do you hate me that much? Pikachu flicked an ear towards him. Hate him? Not quite, but like he mentioned before, it was quite fun annoying him. Pikachu stood up, going over to a bush that had weird noises coming from it. Pushing the leaves aside, a small brown and tan fur ball was in front of him shivering and whimpering. An Eevee, Pikachu thought. Hey, are you alright? He asked, looking at her. The normal Pokémon nearly had a heart attack. She blinked at him, tears running down her face. I'm fine, she squeaked, brushing tears from her fur. My trainer dumped me for an Espeon that someone was giving away. Pikachu glanced over his shoulder at his trainer who was still setting up camp. Well, my trainer will take you, he assured her. He'll love you, I promise. Eevee sniffed, getting out of the bush and heading over to Gary with Pikachu. Pikachu smiled innocently as Gary turned around, glaring at him, not noticing Eevee yet. What do you want, rat? Pikachu pointed towards Eevee. Gary blinked, not believe what he was seeing. An Eevee. Gary still looked shocked, but Eevee is a really rare Pokémon. Pikachu sighed, going over to his bag and picking out a great ball. He maximized it, handing it to his trainer. Honestly, what stupid idiot his trainer could be. Gary stared at the ball, then at Eevee. You mean it wants to come with us? Pikachu nodded, glancing at Eevee who was still shivering. Gary pressed the ball against Eevee's head, the red light sucking her in. It didn't even wiggle. Well, that was easy. Gary commented, placing the ball back in his bag, but at least I got a rare Pokémon. A quick zap from Pikachu corrected him. Okay. 2 rare Pokémon, geez. Pikachu nodded, waiting till Gary had turned his back before getting the great ball out and releasing Eevee. Told you he'd like you. Pikachu smiled softly. Eevee smiled back. Thank you, Pikachu. She gave him a quick kiss on the cheek, laughing as his whole face turned red. Pikachu sat down, watching Eevee walk away and curl up underneath a tree. His heart was beating fast, though his face was turning yellow again apart from his cheeks. I guess she likes me, he thought. I did help her. Pikachu shook his head, darting over towards Gary, laughing as he nearly got hit in the head by an acorn thrown by a Sentrent. You be quiet. Gary yelled, throwing the acorn at him, but he dodged, scampering up a tree still laughing. He saw Eevee smile, shaking her head. Pikachu smiled, falling asleep up in the tree. A scream jolted Ash from his sleep, Ash quickly getting up, but he got tangled up in his sleeping bag. Amy. he yelled, entangling from his bag and jumping up as he grabbed Charmander's ball. The lizard appeared, looking at his trainer in confusion, but Ash had already run off towards where he heard Amy's scream. Charmander chased after him, his tail a pin-prick of light against the darkness of the forest's night. Ash soon found Amy cowering in a clearing near where they had been sleeping just outside the forest. Amy was still in her traveling clothes. A scyther stood over her, his blades glinting in the moonlight. Spearow was in her arms, unconscious. "Get away from her," Ash yelled, getting the scyther's attention. "Ash!" Amy cried, returning Spearow to his ball. "Stay there, Amy. Me and Charmander will take care of Scyther." Charmander use Ember. The fire Pokémon had caught up with him, hearing the command. Small embers of fire escaped from his mouth, scorching Scyther's leg. The Scyther yelled, spinning around. He spread his wings and zoomed at Charmander, scythes out in front of him. "Dodge it!" Ash cried to his Pokémon as he went to check on Amy. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Amy shook her head, watching Charmander and Scyther. Charmander attempted to jump out of the way, but Scyther struck his side. Scyther smirked as his strike hit the smaller Pokémon. Scyther jumped away from Charmander, lowering his blades. Talk about weak. A fire type unable to defeat a bug. How pitiful. Charmander growled, standing up. "What are you talking about?" Charmander asked angrily. "I know I'll beat you. You can bet on it." Scyther laughed, turning away. "Right. You'll just tire yourself out, Pipsqueak." "Charmander, are you alright?" Charmander glanced back at his trainer, nodding. "Okay. Use smokescreen then Ember." Black smoke poured from his mouth, covering the bottom half of the clearing with smoke. Scyther coughed, fluttering up above the smoke. Charmander's fire tail was hidden in the smoke so the Pokémon couldn't see where he was. Charmand shot a flurry of fire at the shadow he saw above him, not sure whether the attack struck or not. Scyther let out a cry of pain as the fire hit him, burning his scythe that he had thrown up. He gritted his teeth as he landed, pain shooting from his leg. Scyther looked at his leg, seeing the black scorch mark from before. Scyther panted heavily, kneeling down. He couldn't believe it. He was getting beaten by a mere child. Scyther growled as the smoke cleared. Ash was standing in front of Amy, a spare Pokeball he had fished out of his pocket in hand. Scyther lowered his head, knowing what was coming. Pokeball go! The red and white ball whizzed toward the bug, sucking him in. It wiggled a few times, eventually going still. "Yes." Amy smiled as Ash went to pick up his new Pokemon. "Way to go, Ash," she murmured softly. Suddenly feeling tired, Ash turned back to her. "Why were you out here anyway?" he asked, placing the ball in his pocket. Charmander was quickly returned to his to rest. "I couldn't sleep," she answered, "and I thought if I went for a walk, I'd get tired, but then that Scyther attacked me. I think I went near its nest or something." Ash offered her a hand and helped her up. "Come on, let's get back to camp," he told her, heading back. "We'll be safer there." Amy nodded, following behind him. When they got back, Ash started the fire again while Amy sat a few feet away. Ash looked at her. "Do you want something to drink or eat?" Amy shook her head, bringing her arms around her chest. The fire was beginning to warm her up. Ash took out Scyther's and Charmander's balls. He let out Charmander first, grabbing his bag and taking a potion out. Ash sprayed it on Charmander's injuries, making him cringe slightly. "Feel better, pal?" Charmander, the little lizard, nodded, going over to Amy. "When the sun comes up, we'll head to the nearest Pokémon Center to heal your Pokémon, okay, Amy?" "Alright, what are you going to do with the Scyther?" "I'm going to keep him, of course." Ash replied stubbornly, "Why else would I catch him? He's strong, and if I train with him enough, he'll get stronger." He released Scyther. The mantis Pokémon still covered his scratches and burns. Ash wondered where the scratches came from. He knew Charmander didn't cause them. Suddenly, the newly evolved Beedrill popped out of her ball, hovering near Ash. Ash didn't take much notice. Beedrill tended to do pop out of her ball now since she evolved. He took out his Pokédex, pointing it at Scyther. Scyther, the mantis Pokémon, the sharp edges on its forearms become increasingly sharp by cutting through hard objects. "Whoa, cool," Ask exclaimed. "Now what moves do you know?" "Scyther's moves," Dexter said in a monotone, "are as follows: Focus Energy, Quick Attack, False Swipe and Agility." Scyther L. Ooked at the Pokédex in Ash's hand, then at his face. Ash held up the potion he had used on Charmander. He hadn't used it all on Charmander. Ash knew that it'll heal the scratches, but he didn't know what to do about the burns. If he had enough, he thought maybe he could heal them a little bit. Ash stepped forward, Scyther going still as the potion was sprayed across his wound. It felt cool and refreshing against them, but it also stung. But he refused to show it. Ash checked the potion and noted it only had a few more drops in it. I guess it only has one more spray, 2 if I stretch it. He figured, carefully spraying on the Scyther's leg. The Pokémon winced, it stung more than on the scratches. The potion ran out before the burn was fully healed. Ash sighed, standing up. Well, we'll have to wait for a Pokémon Center before we can fully heal you. Ash told him, moving away from him, that was my last potion and I don't have anything else. Ash had been using his potions and that on Charmander and Beedrill as they had been training. Beedrill looked at Scyther, then buzzed over to a tree, sitting in one of the branches. Why do you follow the human? He asked the bee-like Pokémon, what's in it for you? Beedrill glanced at the trainers and Charmander before she replied. I was a Weedle when Ash caught me, she buzzed down to his height, now look at me. The Charmander is nearly ready to evolve into a Charmeleon, and you will surely evolve with enough training. Scyther snorted softly. Right, he said bitterly, the only way for me to evolve is if this human trades me, as they call it, with something called a metal coat. My father told me he was a Scizor. Beedrill nodded, watching Ash and Amy talk softly. Charmander was snoring near them, smoke drifting out of his nose. Beedrill glanced back at Scyther. You'll like it with us, I know it. She told him before disappearing into the forest to explore. Scyther just stood there, watching the fire die down. Pikachu darted in front of Gary, ignoring him when he yelled at the mouse. Come back here, Rat. That had become his name, the one that Gary always called him now. Rat. Pikachu slowed down as Eevee called out to him. He didn't mind waiting for her. Why does he always yell at you? Even when you're just running? Rat smirked. It's because I don't listen to him, the mouse answered, skirting round a fallen log that blocked half the road. Also 'cause I tend to electrocute him. Eevee giggled, jumping on top of the log then down. Gary was grumbling behind them, not understanding what they were saying. He watched them dart over or around the log, following Rat's example and going around. Gary swept a hand through his hair, sighing. He wondered if Eevee would listen to him or not. Med well behaved so far, but if she spent too much time with Rat. Gary shook his head. Eevee scampered back to him, laughing her head off. The mouse appeared from under a bush, shaking his head. He also seemed a little damp. Gary blinked as Rat bounded over, tackling the normal Pokémon. Eevee squealed loudly, kicking him off before racing off the same way she came. Rat went after her, leaving Gary confused. He jogged after them, keeping them in sight. Rat, Eevee, don't get too far, he cried, not sure if they heard or not. An electrical shock told him Rat at least heard. Gary settled down, leaning against a tree. After 2 hours chasing after his Pokémon, they both decided to rest, which made Gary happy. He was tired, hungry and thirsty. He took out his water and took a long drink. Eevee and Rat were sleeping, curled up together nearby. Gary put his bottle away and closed his eyes. Without realizing it, Gary fell asleep. After a few hours, he opened his eyes again. It was dark, the moon was out, and Gary jumped when he saw it. He sighed irritably, getting up. He started collecting firewood. He lit a fire, grabbing his sleeping bag and getting inside it. Rat and Eevee were still nearby but closer. They had obviously been playing again. Gary folded his arms behind his head, looking at the stars. I wonder how Ash and the others are. He thought, I bet they're doing better than me. Why have probably reached Viridian and gone already. These were the last thoughts as he fell asleep. The fire kept crackling and Gary dreamt of Rat and Eevee running from a forest fire, but they got trapped. He tried helping but he couldn't move. He looked over his shoulder and saw Ash, Stacy and Megan. Ash's Charmander was nowhere to be seen, but Bulbasaur and Squirtle was there. The three were smirking. He then realized that Bulbasaur was holding him with his vines. Gary flicked his head back towards Rat and Eevee. Instead of seeing a Charmander, there was a Charizard. He was standing over Rat and Eevee. They were both knocked out and Charizard was readying a flamethrower. No! He cried, jerking awake. It was light and his Pokémon were looking at him weirdly. He smiled weakly before wiggling out of his sleeping bag. The fire was nothing except for black ash on the grass surrounded by stones. Gary gathered up his sleeping bag and his traveling bag. He'd have something to eat as soon as he reached Viridian City, which he should been in at noon. Come on you two, he grumbled, walking on the road. Time to go. The two glanced at each other then followed him. Must have had a bad dream. Both agreed. Three shadows knelt down in front of a huge TV screen. The room they were in had no lights on, so you couldn't see who they were. The TV turned on, the light falling short of the figures. Did you get them? Asked the man on the screen, petting a Persian in his lap. No, a female voice, a child and her Spearow stopped us. The man sneered. A mere child beat you. He snapped. Well, I'll give you one more chance. Get me a rare or valuable Pokémon and you'll be rewarded. Yes sir. The screen turned off. There was silence for a few moments. How are we gonna find da boss a rare valuable Pokémon? Asked the shortest figure. The woman answered. We simply just set up a daycare. People will leave their Pokémon with us without them suspecting anything. At least one's bound to be rare or valuable. Squirtle use water gun. Squirtle let a blast of water shoot from her mouth, it colliding with a pale blue lavender Pokémon. It was a Nidoran. The poisoned Pokémon skidded to a stop, shaking water off before charging at Squirtle. Squirtle, dodge it. But she couldn't. Nidoran tackled the turtle, her little horn not piercing her opponent's thick shell. Squirt. Squirtle retaliated with another water gun, knocking it back. Nidoran didn't shake the water off this time. Instead, small purple matchstick-like darts escaped from her mouth. Squirtle jumped out of the way. The poison darts harmlessly pounded into the ground. Nidoran then dodged away from Squirtle's tackle. The two Pokémon were panting heavily, covered in bruises, cuts and dirt. Squirtle, one last water gun. Squirtle took a deep breath before shooting another blast of water. Nidoran sent back the poison darts, the attacks colliding. It caused a small explosion, knocking the Pokémon and Stacy on their backs. Stacy stood up shakily, seeing her Pokémon struggling to get on her feet. Stacy helped her, looking for the Nidoran. The small Pokémon was lying on the grass nearby, unconscious. Stacy blew an empty ball from her belt, throwing it at the Pokémon. It rattled then fell still and silent. She returned Squirtle, knowing how tired she was. She picked up the ball, sticking it on her belt. She sighed, trying to decide whether or not to head back to Viridian City or keep going. Stacy blinked, looking back at where Nidoran laid before. A paw print was there, but Stacy knew that it wasn't Squirtle's or Nidoran's, and certainly wasn't hers. She took out her Pokémon handbook. It had every Pokémon in the region in it. It showed a picture of the Pokémon, a bit of information and a footprint. Stacy flicked through it, trying to find one that fitted the one on the ground. No way. Stacy gasped. The paw print matched the legendary Pokémon, Suicune. How can that be? Suddenly a gust of wind blew up. A blue blur racing in front of Stacy before disappearing. The wind died down, Stacy lowering her arms. No way, she was in disbelief. Even if it was only for a moment, she had seen a legendary Pokémon. I have to sit down, she murmured softly, leaning against a tree sliding down. Megan wandered through the shelves of the Pokémart, looking at different potions, antidotes and things like that. She bit her lip, taking a few potions, Pokeballs and an antidote. She wanted to get more, but she couldn't afford to. She hated not having enough money to get medicines for her Pokémon. She had promised her mother that she'd send half of her earnings back to her, to help with her brother's treatment, but she knew her brother wasn't sick or hurt. She had known that when she had caught her mother and brother out drinking. The two of them were just alcoholics, her brother also into drugs. Her father was the only hard-working one out of her parents, and Megan took after him. Next time I win a battle, she thought bitterly as she paid for the items, I'll keep all the money. I wonder why Dad hasn't bothered to divorce Mum. Megan walked out of the mart, placing the items in her bag. Her two Pokémon were safely resting in their Pokeballs. She checked everything was in her bag, not watching where she was going. Oof. Everything in her bag scattered on the ground as Megan fell down. She quickly started to gather everything, apologizing profusely. I'm sorry, I wasn't watching where I was going. It's okay, the guy she bumped into helped her pick up her items, it wasn't your fault. Megan stood back up, the blush on her cheeks matching her bright red hair. The guy laughed, handing her items to her. Again, I'm sorry, she packed her items away again, thanks for helping me though. I'm Megan. Steven, he told her, smiling, and it's fine, like I said. Megan smiled softly. Would you mind if you had lunch with me? My treat. Megan looked at him thinking. Isn't it? A bit strange to be asking a girl out to lunch you just met. Steven laughed nervously, rubbing his head. Yeah well, how about we just call it an apology for knocking into you? Megan giggled, nodding. She shrugged. Why not? She replied, smiling brightly, but I get to pay for what I get because I knocked into you. Steven blinked. But I said I'd pay for it. Megan laughed, eyes twinkling. I know. But come on, it's only fair that I pay for my meal. Steven seemed to pout, which made Megan laugh harder. All right, you can pay. Megan smiled gently, so what do you have in mind? Steven shrugged, starting to walk. I'm not sure. What do you feel like? Italian would be nice. Megan was surprised by her answer. She normally didn't like Italian, but right now she actually did feel like a pizza or something. Steven smiled, nodding. I know a nice place. It doesn't mean Hawaiian pizza. The two laughed, walking down the street. I figured I should get at least one of the trainers to get a glimpse of a legendary. I was thinking of getting Gary or Ash, Gary more so, but I thought I'd use one of the girls instead. Can anyone guess who the shadows are? Groaning softly, Gary slumped onto the bed. He had arrived at Viridian and was starving. He pulled his arms from his bag's straps, letting it fall on the bed. He pulled some money from the side pocket, wanting to get some food. Rat and Evie were being taken care of Nurse Joy, so he didn't need to worry about them as he walked out the door. Gary looked for a fast food restaurant. He blinked when he saw Megan sitting outside an Italian restaurant, talking with a boy a year or two older. He had black hair and blue eyes. Megan turned, spotting him. Gary, she cried, standing up, come join us. We're just waiting for our food. Gary nodded. Sure, I will. He fished a chair from an empty nearby table and sat down. He looked at the boy. Who are you? Steven, he answered. Your name is Gary, right? Yes it is. Gary looked over his shoulder as a waiter brought over 2 pizzas, a Hawaiian and a meat lover. The waiter blinked when he saw Gary sitting at the table. He placed the pizzas down in front of Steven and Megan, turning to Gary. Can I help you, sir? Would you like to order something? Could I have a plain cheese pizza and lemonade? Could we have 2 more? The waiter nodded, going to get their drink and tell the chef Gary's order. So Gary, how's your journey coming? What Pokémon did the professor give you? Megan asked, taking a bite of her pizza. Gary mumbled something under his breath, the other 2 not hearing his answer. What was that, Gary? Grandpa gave me a Pikachu and I caught an Eevee. Megan's and Steven's jaws dropped. You're kidding, right? Megan asked, staring at him with wide eyes. Incredible. A light blush crept along Gary's face, but they didn't notice it. Oh, I love Eevee, they're so cute. Megan exclaimed, do you have it with you? Gary shook his head. No, she's at the center with Rat. He let the name slip without meaning. Steven frowned. Rat, is that the Pikachu? Gary's blush deepened, Gary quickly getting rid of it. Yay, so what? Gary said defensively, feeling his anger raising. It's just a strange name, that's all. Steven told him, why'd you pick it? Gary shrugged, the waiter saving him from answering by coming out with his pizza and 3 drinks. He places the pizza in front of Gary and places the drinks down, the ice clinking against the glass. So Megan, what Pokémon have you caught? Gary asked. Megan took a sip of her drink before answering. She and Gary were on neutral terms with each other, neither hating nor liking one another. I've only caught an Oddish so far. Reaching down to her bag, she unzips it and dragged her sketchbook out. Gary watched as she did, interested in what she would show him. He knew the redhead liked to draw and he had once received a picture from her when they were much younger. It had been of the 3 starters, Bulbasaur, Squirtle and Charmander, along with a Pikachu and a Pidgey. Gary wondered if she would become an artist, as he thought she was good enough. Megan flipped open the book, stopping on a black and white shaded picture of an Oddish and Bulbasaur curled up sleeping. Gary and Steven stared at it, wonder. Wow, Megan, Steven murmured in amazement, it looks so realistic. I honestly think you should be an actual artist. You'd definitely be famous and make a lot. How long did this picture take? Megan blushed as Gary nodded in agreement. It took about an hour. She offered shyly, not used to such praise. Steven gaped at her as Gary flickered through the book, pausing at a picture of him. Megan, he started slowly, showing her the picture as he studied her face. It had become a deep red. When did you do this? Megan stuttered slightly, embarrassed. Well, I drew it the other day. Her hands suddenly seemed much more interesting. Gary sighs, closing the book. Steven stared between the two, feeling pretty nervous at the moment. Steven tried to think of something to distract the two. Gary, can we come with you? Want you when you pick up your Pokémon afterwards? Gary shrugged, biting into a piece of his pizza, answering after swallowing. Sure, I want to see what Pokémon you have though. The three continued on talking, slowly eating their food. Stacy laughed as Squirtle and Nidoran dashed around in a game of Pokémon tag. Pidgey was resting on her shoulder, snoozing. Stacy gently petted the bird, watching as Nidoran pounces on Squirtle, then darted off laughing as he was on his back and attempted to get up. Stacy helped her Pokémon get up, shaking her head as he chased after Nidoran again. Pidgey yawned widely as he woke up, eyeing his teammates. Squirtle tripped over a rock. Nidoran skidding to a halt to help. Nidoran, Squirtle, time to go, she called, deciding to finally move on from where she was currently residing. A small inn that was on the outskirts of Viridian. It had been a week since everyone but she had left. She pulled their Pokeballs and returned them all, sighing as she placed them back on her belt. Looking up at the sky, the wind blowing, she wondered how everyone was going. How many Pokémon they had caught. Had Ash already gotten to Pewter, and was he the owner of a Boulder badge, heading towards Cerulean? She didn't know, but she wished she did. She missed both Ash and Megan. Though she wouldn't admit it, she also missed Gary because he was always fun to fight with. Having already paid for her room and having no need to tell the owner she was leaving, they knew she was a trainer and would move on. Stacy shifted her bag, which had become uncomfy, on her back and moved away from the inn, hands stuck in her pockets. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you all are enjoyed this video. If you do, please leave a like, share and subscribe. Also don't forget to support author of this fanfic. So let's end this video here. Until then, see you in next video.